All right, so I really want to talk about the topic of mastery, something that is not a new topic for me to talk about, but I just love thinking about it. I love brainstorming about it. I love just going in depth about the topic. I was doing some writing and some thinking about the area, and I really want to iron out something that, for my own sake, I want to figure out what it was when I initially started down my path of mastery that I love so much that either I've forgotten or I just don't think about anymore because I'm in a different part of my life. I started with mastery late in my life. I started around 24, 25. The first thing was exercise. I started working on my health. This is not a new story, but long story short, weighed about 300 pounds. Now I weigh about 212, and I lost a lot of weight in less than a year. Went down to about 12% body fat, was really in shape and not even at my peak. I still had a lot more progress that I knew I could make, and I still can make. There was this process, this mindset that I had that I was hyper aware of during the whole entire time. And I was in a time in my life where things weren't very complicated. I was able to think about it every day. All I did was eat very basic food. I would prepare it in advance, so I'd have about 2 or 3 days worth of food, wouldn't have to think about it. I would eat that food in like 10 or 15 minutes, get back to whatever it was I was doing, and then do my exercises almost every day and kept upping the difficulty as I went. I don't know if it's because of the background that I have with gaming. I'm sure it has a lot to do with it, and the degree that I had in animation and game design. So everything from my life, from as a kid up to this point, I knew games very well. I was working at GameStop, so games were the only thing that I could really relate to. So that said, as I was getting better at working out and I was learning fighting games, I just had this mindset of looking at my physical and mental growth as leveling up. At the same time, I was starting to kind of explore myself mentally and spiritually. I started getting into meditation for a various number of reasons, primarily my ADD. I really wanted to get that in check so that I could focus even better. And I had heard that meditation had a bunch of different benefits, level of focus being one of those things, spiritual awareness, and so on and so forth. And I just started getting into it, and I just had so much mental clarity, and I was able to see these thought patterns. And along that time, I came across the book Mastery. I was living in San Diego at this point, I believe, or at least I discovered it around the time that I moved to San Diego. And it was the perfect book at the perfect time for me to read. And it made so much sense at that time because I was going through what they were talking about. I wasn't going through mastery for the sake of making money or whatever. I mean, I don't know what other people go through mastery for in their special fields, but I was just working on my body. And that was something that just brought me extreme happiness. And it still does to this day. And I don't know if that'll ever become something that's profitable to me, but it's something that's necessary for me to become better at other things, along with video games, to be honest. I want to get back to my main point, which is this concept of mental leveling up, physical leveling up, because it's a concept that I don't feel enough people go in depth about. You know, people talk about sweat equity. They talk about being the highest level of yourself, you know, getting better at things. And it's absolutely true. But I feel like a lot of people who are good at things, primarily in fighting games, it's one of the things that I'm really big into, is they don't talk about the micro actions that take place in the brain and the things that you have to learn. They say the core concepts, like getting better at footsies, and there's different exercises. And again, I go back to this guy all the time, Joe Monday. He talks about this a lot, and there's things that are broken down, but I still think they can be broken down even further. And it's so hard to explain because it's me having a conversation with myself right now. But there's this concept when you're thinking about it regularly, when you're able to not be distracted and focused on what you're doing and do it on a consistent basis, to be able to notice all the different things that are happening when you're doing it and actually taking place and documenting these things and not just noticing it and then letting it pass away, because it becomes very abstract after the moment is gone if you don't capture that moment somehow, writing it down or expressing it, whatever, sharing it with somebody. I think there's a lot to those moments. There's a lot of value. There's a lot of information to share, and I think a lot of people in their own way have tried to capture it. Everyone can do it in their own way, but a lot of people I notice don't take the time to appreciate those things. Those small moments, those moments where we level up and we actually get a new technique. We finally understand this thing. And now that we finally understand it, because we've been doing something for so long, we're able to build upon that concept, whether it be physical or mental. the concept still stays the same. It could be something physical, for example, doing a certain kind of workout, doing a certain kind of routine. You just do it so many times over and over again, whether you're told to do it by a teacher or a coach or a sensei, you just do it over and over and over again. And all of a sudden, after a while, it just makes sense. It just clicks. And in that moment, usually if you have a coach or a sensei, that's the time where they see it too. And they add something on top of that. They add a new exercise. They add a compound exercise, something that you wouldn't have been able to do properly unless you knew that first part first. There's a difference between understanding something and knowing something. And knowing something physically, mentally, being able to experience it. Experience is one thing, knowledge is another thing. Let's put it that way. So you have knowledge. You've read all about it. You understand how it works. Experience is something different. You have to actually put in the time and the work in order for that thing to actually level up and gain that skill to be able to do it. Knowledge, you can read as many books as you want and you can understand it and you can talk about it. And that's great. You can become an expert in that field, but you are not a master in that field. Two completely different things, in my opinion. That abstract, hard to grasp feeling is what I want to really focus on today. I want more people to be able to talk about that concept when it comes to fighting games specifically. This is something that I find hard to focus on because of the way that I practice. I don't go into the training mode and do one specific thing over and over and over again and try to build on it. I do practice it to the point where, okay, I got it kind of memorized, but then I take it to rank mode or fighting my friends and it's not as concrete as I want it to be. And I know from my background with sports and martial arts that I should probably go back and do it more, but it's not as exciting. It's not as glamorous as actually fighting someone and seeing your rank go up and winning and getting these points or whatever. Same thing with Street Fighter or other things. And, there is a lot of experience to get from that. But if you're trying to just build skill, build understanding, build experience, the best way to do that is practice one specific thing. And if you're in a fight, then maybe you can still do that, but I'm not doing that. I'm calling myself out in this little conversation that we're having. And so I want to pass that question on, and I really want you guys to think about this and share your experience with me. What do you feel happens when you finally have that click moment where you understand something, and what do you do with that moment? Do you just let it pass by and it's like, hey, I finally got it, cool? Or do you capture that? Do you write it down? Do you share it? Do you document it somehow? Do you talk about it with people? And then you say, okay, I understand this piece of tech. Now I can expand on that and add that to my repertoire, to my game plan. Is that part of a bigger plan, or is that just something that you get? And that if it comes up, it comes up. What is your process? What do you do? Let me know in the comments down below. I want to do more of these. I don't have these moments where I get to capture my thoughts as clearly as I do right now. But if it's something that is a good conversation piece for you guys, I'll do more of these because I really want to improve and I'm trying to understand these concepts. I'm trying to get better. And I think that when you get better at one thing, you have the potential to get better at other things in your life if you allow yourself to focus on those things as well. That's been my philosophy now for a while, for most of my adult life, and it has served me very well. I'm still trying to improve in many things, but I've had much success and I'm still grinding it out and still trying to understand things that I'm not good at, getting out of my comfort zone. So I want to know what you guys think. If you like this conversation, don't forget to hit that like button, press subscribe. I've got plenty of conversations with other people who are far better than me in different areas. So hit the subscribe button if you want to check those out. Until next time,